Earthlings. How are you? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Hope you are having a good morning so far. And if your day's already going on, I hope you're having a great day. All right, let's start off looking at our cosmic weather for today. Starting off at spaceweather.com. Current conditions have our solar wind moving at 453.3 kilometers per second. That leaves us with a planetary K index of 2. Expected to be no higher within the next 24 hours. And our M-class flares are at a 25% chance, while the X-class is very low at a 1%. And you could see that the geomagnetic storm activity is going to be very low as well, only 5%. If you're in the high latitudes, it can be a bit higher, 15%. As far as near-Earth objects, there really aren't anything we need to be concerned with. We have one passing through on the 16th, but it's 5.4 lunar distances away. You can see there really isn't anything close like we had in November with the one that was only or less than a lunar distance away and the size of a aircraft carrier. So nothing like that coming through. Tells us here that sunspots store energy in the high tension twists and turns of the magnetic fields during the late hours of the 9th, January 9th. The magnetic field of sunspot 1393 untwisted. The result was a C26 class solar flare. And there's a movie here you can check out exactly to see what it looks like. The eruption did not produce a significant CME, nor did the flash of UV radiation make big waves of ionization in Earth's atmosphere. It was not a geoaffective event. Having untwisted, the magnetic field of AR 1395 is now temporarily relaxed. Solar activity remains low, and AR 1395 is unlikely to break the quiet. Alright, very interesting stuff. Keeping yourself informed at Space Weather. Now, astrologically, remember, we're still in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn, one of the words that go with it is practicality. Earth sign, getting things of a very practical nature. Think of the Capricorn, the goat, climbing up the mountain, so the persistence, perseverance that goes along with that. And then our moon sign is the thing that keeps changing every day, every 2 days. And our moon sign for today is completely within the sign of Leo. It was in Cancer. Then yesterday it was between Cancer and Leo, and today it's completely in Leo. Leo's the lion. Our subconscious finds itself dealing with issues of personal ego, how we use it, how we don't. It deals with issues of pride, of strength, of the inner nature to be able to be wise enough to allow that beastly part of ourselves, the animalistic part, to be able to be tamed by the other part. So there's a lot of things inherent with the idea of Leo. And it's all about learning to work with our energy that is very fiery so that it becomes something that we can be that'll be useful to us as opposed to something that gets out of control. So always good lessons, keep our unconscious minds in control, and there we have it. And our current moon phase, we just started to move downward now from the full moon, where it was yesterday. Now we're at 98%, so we're starting to go down, so it's in the phase of the moon called the waxing moon. The waxing moon, which is where it goes from full moon to the new moon. And last, our dream spell for today. It's a white resonant wind day, guided by the dog. The phrase is, I empower in order to communicate commanding breath. I seal the input of spirit with the overtone tone of radiance. I am guided by the power of heart. And on the Gregorian calendar is Tuesday, January 10th, 2012. So there you have it. That catches up with our cosmic weather for today. Just remember, everything's about energy. And all we're learning how to do every day is to work with the energy around us. Sometimes the energy is more physical. Sometimes the energy is more spiritual. Sometimes it's in between. We work with all these different types of energies each and every day, and we have the opportunity to work better with them. That's what our chakras are all about. Our chakras are energy systems that we have. The more that we learn to work and operate this vehicle, the spacesuit that we wear, and all the energy centers, and to activate them and work with them, the more we'll be able to interact and exchange energies with these different subtler energies that are going through the world today. All right, that is it. Dirk Bradshaw's with us here today. He has a story for us about Waco. So let's hear what Dirk has to say. Dirk, over to you.
Flying high above the planet Earth, this is the Cosmic News with Dirk Bradshaw. I am Dirk Bradshaw. The ill-fated FBI raid on the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas captured international attention. But what exactly happened? Learn more about the official story and why some people aren't buying it. That's what we have for you, boys and girls. You're gonna want to stay tuned. You definitely need to know this
And if you ask our leaders today, this is what they will say. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. What's up with their lives?
Here are the facts. On April 19, 1993, the FBI invaded a Branch Davidian compound in Mount Carmel, just outside of Waco, Texas. This came at the end of a 50-day siege. 76 people died, including children and pregnant women. These tensions had been simmering for some time. Earlier that year, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms had a 2-hour gun battle with members of the compound. 4 ATF agents and 6 Branch Davidians died. The story of the Waco siege captured international attention, and news organizations scrambled to catch footage of the fire engulfing the compound, spreading to the size of a city block. In the wake of this tragedy, government agents and citizens alike tried to understand how things could have gone so far out of control. However, according to some sources, the world still doesn't know the whole story. Here's where it gets crazy. Most conspiracy theories surrounding the Waco siege claim federal and state governments have participated in an ongoing cover-up of the actual events, and perhaps were dishonest about their motivations from the beginning. But how do these claims hold up? The leader of the Davidian sect at Mount Carmel was a fellow named Vernon Howell, better known as David Koresh. Koresh's followers believed that he was Christ, and that once he broke the 7 seals mentioned in the book of Revelations, his followers and children would rule in a new age. These types of apocalyptic beliefs aren't as rare as you might think. However, in Koresh's case, these beliefs went hand in hand with stockpiling guns and, according to the authorities, rampant child abuse. Allegations of child abuse were only one of the primary reasons for the government's actions. They also listed illegal firearm registration and the possibility of a methamphetamine laboratory. During this siege, negotiators often spoke with Koresh, hoping they could convince him to release the children from the compound. However, almost 20 years after the tragedy, numerous inconsistencies remain in the official story. For example, who fired first? According to the official records, the Branch Davidians opened fire while agents attempted to enter the building. However, in the initial reporting of the events, an ATF agent named Balestros stated he believed the ATF fired first. He later retracted this statement and was not asked to be a witness at the ensuing trials. And who set the fire? The FBI eventually admitted to the use of some previously undisclosed pyrotechnic devices, but Waco survivor Graham Craddock claimed he heard Davidians possibly planning to set the fire. One thing's for sure, this fire spread quickly, and it seems to have ignited at different points of the compound almost simultaneously. Additionally, the allegations of child abuse have been extensively corroborated by both former followers of Koresh, some of their relatives, and investigators. Yet, to many conspiracy theorists, including Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber, the incident at Mount Carmel represents a new phase in governmental repression. In fact, McVeigh and his co-conspirator in the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing claimed their attack was a response to the Waco siege and a similar FBI standoff at Ruby Ridge, Idaho. Idaho. Under the leadership of Senator John Danforth, an investigative team working out the details of the events at Waco found that the FBI did not start the ultimately fatal blaze and cleared the agency of most wrongdoing. It goes without saying that numerous Waco sympathizers disagree with these findings, and it's also true that some key evidence from the raid is still unaccounted for. Is this a case of mere lost property, or is this evidence of something they don't want you to know?
Well, I see the fat lady is getting off the stage. She's looking right at me. I've got to take her home and put her to bed. I hate goodbyes, so instead I'm going to say, until we meet again. I'm Dirk Bradshaw from the Cosmic News Network. I return you now to Joshua Poet in First Contact. They're all yours, Josh. This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is today's UFO News. I have 5 stories for you. First one comes to us from latest-UFO-sightings.net. UFO filmed over Mount Bisbino in Italy on the 7th. Just 2 days ago, 3 days ago. All right, let's take a look at what this is all about here. All right, as we're looking, okay, we see out in the sky right here, you can see something very faint. There we go, zooming in a little bit, you can see it a bit better. Looks like there's 2 different objects out there. Maybe multiple, you can see a couple in this area here. Is that a cloud maybe? Alright, and as we move along in the video, we've got an additional one, so now we got 2. Looks like 3, and these are all interesting. Look how they are. There's like, looks like a grouping of 4 of them make up one particular object. Either that or 4 are flying in really tight formation there. Alright, that's a UFO sighting that took place over Italy on the 7th. We have from the Observer, expert says UFO sighting credible. The footage of Gladstone UFO sighting has been analyzed by expert Mary Rodwell, who said it could have been an alien encounter. From Agnes Water, Miss Rodwell counsels people on sightings and encounters with extraterrestrial beings and devotes the rest of her time to studying the phenomena. After watching the video submitted by a Gladstone resident, Mr. Rodwell said, "In my opinion, the footage, when seen in comparison to similar UFO footage, both from private sources and footage taken from military sources, for example, Mexico's released footage taken from military aircraft, the footage was taken at Gladstone of an anomalous light craft, demonstrates the classic movements and profile of a non-terrestrial craft. It has the very distinct erratic movements of a UFO craft. I've personally witnessed and seen from reports globally. No star or satellite has these movements, which show direct, distinct side-to-side vertical movements. There is no known terrestrial craft which has these specific movements." And I think this is a video in that regard. Well, then again, maybe not. Alright, I think this is it. The objects. Can't really see it all that great. Alright, there you go. That's our story. Gladstone from the Observer. Our next story comes to us from Roger Marsh over at theexaminer.com. North Carolina hillside lights up close to witness home. A North Carolina witness reports an intense white-blue light hovering less than 1,000 feet along a hillside behind a house in a group of trees on January 8, 2012, according to the testimony from the MUFON Witness Reporting Database. The witness woke up at 1 a.m. and noticed the lights and watched them for 15 minutes before attending to a child. When I came back, it was gone, the witness stated. The light was very bright, like an airplane landing light. It did not project a single direction. Light was emitted omnidirectionally. Light pulsated slightly and changed colors slightly between white and blue. Object appeared to be hovering or was landed. There was not wavering in object movement. Occasionally a slight spin or rotation was noted in the light pattern of the trees. The witness investigated the area the following day. No signs of burns or landing impressions were noted. No roads, houses, or other structures noted in the area of sighting. Power lines were located at the point of observation. My impression is that the object was drawing power from the electrical lines. No images or anything of that nature, just the report itself. The next report comes to us from educatinghumanity.com. UFO aliens may have helped build pyramids of Giza, says Cairo University archaeologist. As we head further into 2012, there is some indication that this story might pick up steam and some additional information may be made available. So this is a recap story that I feel sure you'll hear about in 2012. Head of Cairo University Archaeology Department, Dr. Ala Shaheen, in December 2010 had told audiences that there might be truth to the theory that aliens helped the ancient Egyptians build the oldest of the pyramids of Giza. On being further questioned by Mr. Marek Nowak, a delegate from Poland, as to whether the pyramid might still contain alien technology or even a UFO with its structure, Dr. Shaheen was vague and replied, "I cannot confirm or deny this, but there is something inside the pyramid that is not of this world." Delegates to the conference on Egyptian architecture were left shocked. However, Dr. Shaheen had refuted to comment further or elaborate on his UFO and alien-related statements. Down below is 90s The Secret UFO, KGB UFO file documentary that deals with the fact that Russians had already discovered the tomb of alien humanoid in Egypt and something is beneath the pyramid. The secret KBG UFO documentary interestingly supporting the head of the Cairo University, Dr. Ala Shaheen, claim as well. Actually, ancient Egyptian writings very often talk about beings from the sky opening and bright lights coming down to teach them technology and give them wisdom. Many pictures and symbols resemble UFOs and aliens. Possibly aliens built the Great Pyramid, and these solid, long-lasting construction techniques were adopted by the Egyptians. Ancient Egyptian legends tell of Tebzepi, or the first time. This describes an age when sky gods came down to the earth and raised the land from mud and water. They supposedly flew through the air in flying boats and brought laws and wisdom to man through royal line of pharaohs. And of course, this was all thrown out of the window when Christianity came along. Keep in mind that the gods were the one and only religion that there was. And as we advance through 2012, there's a very good possibility that we will learn much about the ancient Egyptians that will put things into perspective. Most interesting indeed. There's a video here to watch. It's an hour and 22 minutes long, so check that out. And our very last story for today comes to us from NASA. Starts off, a recent discovery on a NASA website turned up a video showing an object following the space shuttle. Okay. When asked to identify what space shuttle mission it was from and what it might be, NASA replied with the following: "We can neither confirm or deny this is from any space shuttle mission. Furthermore, we are not at liberty to discuss or comment on what the object in question might be." Shortly after we received the response from NASA, the mysterious video disappeared from the website. And here is the object in question, trailing behind or alongside. Now, it's not the moon. It's an object that is definitely spherical in nature and unknown origin. So when they say that there's no evidence of extraterrestrial life, the government is outrightly telling you a lie, because here is NASA and what they're experiencing. So NASA has most definitely experienced UFOs, unknown craft of this nature, so most likely they have many, many other things they're not telling you about. Alright, that's our UFO news. We'll be back with more stories and information momentarily. Stay tuned. This is Wake Up.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, but they're illusion from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What would our founding fathers say if they were alive today? Must be turning in their graves. Redcoats are coming, Big Brother's watching. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What if I land and two if I see? And I and the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
All right. Let's continue on here. We're going to start off with politics. Tonight, as you may know, is the next primary event. We had the first one last week, the caucus in Iowa. Now we have the primary in New Hampshire. This is just the second of a long, long race. And the mudslinging has been going on. I'm sure you're very much aware of that. Now, polling has been going pretty good for Ron Paul, but you're not going to necessarily know that if you're tuned in to one of the mainstream or cable stations, because they're not talking about Ron Paul. They're leaving him out because they are afraid of what Ron Paul represents. He represents peace. And whereas the reporters or the journalists or the commentators, whatever you want to call them, on these cable and Main Street stations are telling mistruths, it is those behind them that are writing the stories that are the ones really directing the way things go. And the reporters, those who are just reading the stories, well, either they are reading them as mindless drones, or they are reading them knowing that they are telling lies and they're not caring, or they're just doing the reports the way they're doing them because they're getting paid enough money not to talk or care about really what they're saying, whether it's true or not. Regardless of that fact, here's what we have out there in the polls now. It says, poll, Paul tied with Obama, most electable of GOP candidates. Fares better than Romney among independents. This is from Steve Watson over at InfoWars. A new poll indicates that GOP presidential candidate Ron Paul is statistically tied with Obama in a hypothetical lead head-to-head, making him the only Republican candidate other than Mitt Romney to be in such a position. The poll, conducted by CBS News, has Paul at 45% and Obama at 46%, with the poll's margin of error plus or minus 2.8 percentage points. Out of all the other candidates, only Mitt Romney challenges Obama within the margin of error. Romney scored 47% to Obama's 45%. Rick Santorum, Newt Gingrich, Rick Perry, and John Huntsman are all defeated by Obama in the polls beyond or well beyond the margin error. And you can see right here, Ron Paul's got really good numbers as far as amongst independents. He leads 47 to 40 over Obama. He's tied the same amount with Romney at 10%. Amongst Republicans, not 90 to 81, and amongst total 45. So when we tally everything together, he's within that margin of error against Barack Obama. Obama leads Gingrich 49 to 41, Huntsman 48 to 41, Perry 49-42, and Santorum 47 to 43. In addition, Ron Paul has a 7-point lead over Obama amongst independents. So, things I was just telling you. All right. So, now with the debates going on, or with the primaries going on, the candidates are having a last chance to speak and give their debates. Well, these are debate highlights of Ron Paul from the debate, not last night, with the one that took place on the weekend. And I want you to hear this, so if you happen to be giving one last listen or one last thought to Ron Paul before you're going to make a vote, or to the candidates before you make a vote, listen to this. This might play into that for you. So let's check this out.
To this because there is a question about who is the true conservative in the race. And Governor Romney said only 9 years ago during an interview with New England Cable News, he said the following: "I think people recognize that I'm not a partisan Republican, that I'm someone who is moderate and my views are progressive." Do you believe Governor Romney now when he says that he is a man of constancy and that he'll stand up for conservative principles?
You know, I think this whole discussion so far has been very superficial. And I think the question, in a way, that you ask is superficial, and that you're talking about character, which is very important, but I think we should deal with the issues as well. But I don't see how we can do well against Obama if we have any candidate that, endorsed, single-payer systems and TARP bailouts and don't challenge the Federal Reserve's $15 trillion of injection bailing out their friends. I don't see how we can have anybody really compete with Obama who doesn't challenge this huge empire we have overseas and the overseas spending. I mean, this is how nations come down, is they extend themselves too far overseas. That's how the Soviets came down. We really have to talk about real cuts, and we haven't gotten around to this yet. So if we want to change things, this is what we have to talk about. Character is important and motivation is important. Our history is important, but I really consider that in the debate format to be less significant than what we really believe in.
You read my mind, Dr. Paul, and we're going to get to some of the tough choices, not just on politics, but on policy. Yeah. Dr. Paul, there's this question of argument versus accomplishment. The question again comes from Facebook. Heath Treat writes, Paul Treat rather. I want to know what Ron Paul's plan of action will be to achieve getting the House and Senate to help him do all he's promised. And here's the record, Dr. Paul. You have actually sponsored 620 measures. Only 4 made it to a vote on the House floor, and only 1 has been signed into law.
You know, that demonstrates how much out of touch the U.S. government and the U.S. Congress is with the American people, because I'm supporting things that help the American people. That's the disgust that people have because they keep growing government, whether it's the Republicans in charge or the Democrats in charge. But as far as working with other groups, I think my record is about as good as anybody's, because I work on the principle that freedom and the Constitution bring people together for different reasons. People use freedom in different ways, like it does. It invites variations in our religious beliefs, in economic beliefs. We tell people that they're allowed to, to spend their money as they choose. On civil liberties, that's a different segment. Republican conservatives aren't all that well known for protecting privacy and personal liberties. And when it comes to this spending overseas, I can work a coalition. Matter of fact, my $1 trillion proposal to cut spending doesn't immediately deal with Social Security. It's to try to work our way out of Social Security. I'm cutting $1 trillion by attacking overseas spending and going back to '06 budget. And I do not believe that you have to have pain. People who have gotten special privileges and bailouts bailouts from the government, they may get the pain, but the American people, if they get their freedom back and get no income tax, they don't suffer any pain.
The serious issue with Congressman Paul here is you're right. He's never really passed anything of any import. And one of the reasons people like Congressman Paul is his economic plan. He's never been able to accomplish any of that.
It's not exactly a simple task to repeal approximately 100 years of us sliding away from our republic and still running a foreign policy of Woodrow Wilson, trying to make the world safe for democracy. And look, we have elections overseas and we don't even accept the elections. No, change in foreign policy is significant, but that's where a nation will come down if they keep doing this. We can't stay in 130 countries, get involved in nation building. We cannot have 900 bases overseas. We have to change policy. What about changing monetary policy? Yes, we do, but we've had that for 100 years, and right now we're winning that battle. The American people now agree. About 75% of the American people now say we ought to audit the Federal Reserve, find out what they're doing, and who are their friends that they're bailing out constantly.
Congressman Paul, how do you feel about how do you feel about subsidies in general for specific energy, and also, though, more specifically right now, more immediately, this low-income program, heating assistance program? Is this something that fits in under your view of what government does do or should not do?
Well, subsidies per se are, it's bad economic policy, it's bad moral policy, because it's using government force to transfer money from one group to another, and economically it does a lot of harm. But when it comes to energy, we should, deregulate it like others talk about. But we need to talk, supply and demand. Everybody knows about supply and demand. They talk about oil, and if we had more alternative sources, that we always hope the prices will go down. But everybody forgets that there's 50% of a transaction is the monetary unit, and you don't deal, very few people talk about the supply and demand of money. And when you create a lot of money, prices go up. So it goes up in the areas where government most gets involved, in education and medical care, housing, and in energy. So prices go up much faster than any other place. So if you subsidize somebody and you print money to do it, you compound the problem. It's good politics. Yeah, I'm going to subsidize you and take care of you, but it's bad economic policy, and it's not a good way to find any answers.
I'm going to switch to Congressman Paul, and I'm going to say many Americans, particularly Democrats, believe that health care is a right. In your opinion, what services are all Americans entitled to expect to get from government?
Entitlements are not rights. Rights mean you have a right. Rights mean you have a right to your life, and you have a right to your liberty, and you should have a right to keep the fruits of your labor. And this is quite a bit different. But earlier on, there was a little discussion here about gay rights. I, in a way, don't like to use those terms: gay rights, women's rights, minority rights, religious rights. There's only one type of right. It's your right to your liberty. And I think this causes divisiveness when we see people in groups, because for too long we punish groups. So the answer then was let's relieve them by giving them affirmative action. So I think both are wrong. If you think in terms of individuals and protect every single individual, no, they're not entitled. One group isn't entitled to take something from somebody else. And the basic problem here is there's a lot of good intention to help poor people, but guess who gets the entitlements in Washington? The big guys get the rich people. They run the entitlement system, the military-industrial complex, the banking system.
Okay.
Those are the entitlements we should be dealing with.
Dr. Paul, thanks. Dr. Paul, quickly, how would you use the bully pulpit?
I would continue to do what I'm doing now, preaching the gospel of liberty. I think that the most important ingredients in this country that made us great was our founders understood what liberty meant. And that is what we need. We have deserted that. We have drifted a long way. It involves our right to our life, right to our liberty. We ought to be able to keep the fruits of our labor. We ought to understand property rights. We ought to understand contract rights. We ought to understand what sound money is all about. And we ought to understand what national defense means. That means defending this country. That is the bully pulpit we need. We need to defend liberty.
Right. Defend liberty and?
And liberty.
We've been watching the 15th Republican debate of this election season. Good morning. I'm Chris Matthews in Manchester, New Hampshire, just 2 days away from the New Hampshire primary. We'll be here for the next hour and a half. I'm here with Howard Fineman, the Huffington Post Media Group's political director, and Eugene Robinson, who's a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist for the Washington.
All right, there you go. There's Dr. Paul and the MSNBC debate that took place on Saturday. All right, continuing right along, our next story is also, just a little bit more on Dr. Paul here. Veterans, active duty soldiers to march on White House for Ron Paul. Media ignores Paul's service record and the fact he has most donations from the military. Again, from Steve Watson. In a forthcoming event dubbed Ron Paul is the Choice of the Troops, thousands of veterans and active duty military personnel are expected to march on the White House in support of the Texas congressman's presidential bid. The event, to be held on President's Day, February 20th, is being organized by activist group Veterans for Ron Paul 2012, co-founded by Adam Kokesh, Iraq War veteran turned activist and talk show host. In a press release, Kokesh announced that the march will progress from Washington Monument to the White House, where those taking part will salute a folded American flag for as many seconds as troops have died under the presidency of Barack Obama. The purpose of this event is to make it clear that the American people, that Ron Paul is the choice of the troops and the candidates who will have the greatest support from those that he would lead as Commander-in-Chief, writes Kokesh. It is already evident by the fact that Ron Paul has received more campaign contributions from active duty service members than all other presidential candidates combined, including Barack Obama. This statistic was once again confirmed last week, with figures showing Paul has collected $95,567 from individuals who listed their occupation as one of the branches of the U.S. military or U.S. Department of Defense. And here you could see is a breakdown of all of that money. Here's Ron Paul, $95,000. The next closest one was Obama at $76,000. So the current president is getting less support from the troops that he has the ability to direct than Ron Paul does. And if you look at these other candidates, Romney only gets $13,000. Gingrich, $4,000. Santorum, $750. And Dr. Paul, he's really kicking butt out there. The latest analysis from the Center of Responsive Politics updates previous figures to cover the period between January to September 2011 and will be further updated to include the fourth quarter after the candidates file their year-end reports on January 31st. All right, moving right along. This is a picture here that has gone viral, so we want to make sure you see it here. Ron Paul 2012, I went photo goes viral. You can see here Paul's 2012 campaign got a boost when he uttered his famous "and I went" line during the Saturday New Hampshire debate in a heated exchange with Republican rival Newt Gingrich. Paul was criticizing the so-called chicken hawk or politicians who are hawkish about going to war but personally shirk the opportunity to serve in the U.S. military. I think people who don't serve when they could and they get 3 or 4, even 5 deferments have no right to send our kids to war, said Paul in a clear reference to Gingrich. Gingrich responded, "I was married with a child," to which Paul famously shot back, "When I was drafted, I was married and had 2 kids, and I went." Paul finished his sentence, pursed his lips with a steely gaze. The crowd was silent for a moment, then it broke out in applause. Let's see what this says here.
Paul has a long history of saying things that are inaccurate and false. The fact is, I never asked for deferment. I was married with a child. It was never a question. My father was, in fact, serving in Vietnam in the Mekong Delta at the time he's referring to. I think I have a pretty good idea of what it's like as a family to worry about your father getting killed, and I personally resent the kind of comments and aspersions he routinely makes without accurate information and then just slurs people with.
I need one quick follow-up. When I was drafting, I was married and had 2 kids, and I went.
I wasn't eligible for the draft. I wasn't eligible for the draft.
All right, so look at that. Newt Gingrich, chicken hawk. He looks like he's eating a few chicken hawks, huh? All right, we have Michael Schuer here. And as you know and have heard, he is a CIA, former CIA, and he has, or no, current, excuse me. And he is supportive of Ron Paul. So I want to play this so you can check this out. Here we go.
Yes, you know, this cuts to the heart of, I think, an issue that Americans really need to consider if they don't want to fight this war forever. American lifestyle, democracy, women in the workplace, elections, liberty, all of those things the Islamists, Al-Qaeda, its allies, would never have in a country that they governed. That's very clear. But the idea that has been pushed by President Clinton and President Bush and Mr. Cheney and Barack Obama and Senator McCain, that America is being attacked because of those things, is a disservice to the population of the United States. This war is not against Americans because we're Americans. It's against it's motivated by the activities of our government and its allies in the Muslim world. Certainly, Israel is an enormous problem for the United States and an enormous motivator for the Islamists who are active around the world, including in America and Canada and Britain. But it's not only that. It's our support for the Saudi police state. It is our exploitation of what, at low prices, at least as the Islamists consider it, of Middle Eastern oil, of Muslim oil. It's our presence on the Arabian Peninsula and our military activities in Iraq and Afghanistan and Yemen and Somalia and other places. And none of that is to say that those policies or actions are wrong. I would vote to change several of them very drastically, but that's not the point. The point is, unless you understand the motivation of your enemy, you are never going to be able to understand his durability, his intentions, or his ability to recruit in the coming generations. And that's where we are at the moment. And certainly, you can argue about whether you should support the Israelis or not support the Israelis. That's a perfectly legitimate debate. But when you say that Israel is an enormous burden on U.S. interests and our relationship with the Israelis is getting American soldiers killed overseas and threatening us at home, that's just a fact. You can't get away from that fact. And that's the fact that should form the basis of the conversation about whether we continue or not continue support for Israel.
All right, very good. So now you got to hear what former CIA bin Laden chief said, Michael Schuer. All right, moving right along. Let's go to see what's going on in Fukushima. This is from a blog. It says, Fukushima residents, recent quakes feel like bombs, explosions underground, not normal quakes. Sherry Questioning All is the name of this blog. All right, I really feel the need to keep Fukushima in the spotlight. I feel people need to understand Fukushima is still a major problem. This is from the Fukushima Diary today. The information about the quakes that are happening there. Many have posted they are not normal quakes, but they feel like explosions, bombs going off underground. Here's some examples. Fukushima citizens tweet that recent series of earthquakes feel different from usual ones. I think everyone has noticed, if they live in Fukushima since 3/11 and paid attention to earthquakes, suddenly the way the ground has changed, isn't it? Feels like something is exploding underground, like a bomb. I felt that too. It feels like I was sleeping in the double bunk beds and something knocked me from the lower bunk. It comes up from underground all of a sudden, like bang. I woke up several times to be surprised at the knocking up shock. My heart beats hard, can't be reassured for around the clock. I live in Ibaraki, but my family and people around me feel the same way too. It's not a normal earthquake, but a short quake, as if something was exploding underground. I haven't felt that quake for 40 years. It happens every day. The only reason to deny the possibility of hydrovolcanic explosion underground is because the radiation level is not spiking up after the earthquake. But I doubt if the steam comes right after the epicenter. There have been more quakes today. Today the 9th. There have been 2 others yesterday. You can view them on the site. So they're still having problems out there in Fukushima, even though you're not hearing about them on the mainstream or the cable news. They definitely are having their problems. So we need to keep them in our thoughts and our prayers. All right, this next story, I think it's a feel-good story here, something quite interesting. The NFL has been really inundated this year with the story of Tim Tebow. And Tim Tebow, as you know, is very, very devout Christian, and he expresses himself and his views and spiritual views all the time. The Tebowing that he does, the prayers that he does, have made international news, and there's a lot of people around the world paying attention. Well, this last weekend they had a big game against Pittsburgh Steelers, and during that game, the Broncos did come back. They won the game. It was a big game, and there was something interesting that happened during the course of it. The title of this article says, Mile High Halo forms over Tim Tebow in Mile High Stadium during Broncos-Steelers games. So check out these for some coincidences. Let's all try to be calm and rational about this. In addition to Tim Tebow throwing 360 yards in the Broncos' upset over the Steelers, Tebow painted Bible verse 3:16 under his eyes in college, and fans replacing Tebow with Jesus on their jerseys. Apparently a halo-like smoke ring formed over Mile High yesterday after the Broncos scored their first field goal. Mark Newman Lee, an attendee of the Broncos-Steelers game and photographer of the Mile High Halo, tells Huffington Post he had never seen the ring prior to yesterday's NFL upset. 2 seasons. Ticket pass holders also told HuffPost the halo seems to be an anomaly. At the time of the publication, a request for comment from the Broncos was not immediately returned. All right, here's the stadium, and as I go through, here we go. This was seen over the stadium. There it is, a little bit better. All right, I believe that was all of the pictures. All right, so most interesting indeed. Most interesting indeed. So, what do you think about the whole Tim Tebow experience? I think it's pretty awesome. I think it's great because, you know, we live in a world that is a physical world, but the whole energy behind it, the spiritual energy, is been forgotten in many, many cases. On a daily basis, when you turn on the television and watch the shows out there, are you being reminded of God and spirituality? Not really. Not unless you particularly turn on a spiritual program, it seems. So it's kind of nice that in this day and age with all of these problems, there is a young man out there who is reminding people of God, of Jesus, of the things that are important as we go through these times. And so I think it's an awesome, awesome thing. I think what Tim Tebow is doing is great. And what seems even more awesome about the whole thing is he's genuine about it. This isn't somebody, you know, it's not like he's faking it. It's not like he's pretending like you see some folks do out there. So I think it's awesome. So good for you, Tim. Keep that up. And if that's a halo put over the stadium because of the good vibes you're putting out, well, that's cool. Very cool indeed. All right. Last up, let's do our meditation for today. Meditation and prayer send us on our way. What I'd like you to do is go ahead and close your eyes. Relax. Take a deep breath. All right, I would like you to imagine yourself walking along a path. And as you're walking along the path, you see others walking along the path as well. And everybody is in sync with each other, step by step. But you notice there are lots of different thought activities going on as people are walking. And as you look carefully, you're able to notice the doubts and the fears that are hanging over people's heads. And you see the doubts and the fears, and you send light and love to those areas where you see the doubts and the fears. And you help your friends and your neighbors to overcome their problems. And in the process, others see the doubts and the fears that you don't realize are hanging over your head, and they assist you with that process. And little by little, we help each other. We help each other to overcome the doubts, to overcome the fears and the problems. And as we help each other and work together in that regard, we become stronger. We become more focused. We realize our connection to spirit. And as we continue to walk the path of life, and the doubts and the fears dissipate, you notice that everybody is in much more sync, much more focused. And as everyone is walking along the path, you find a sense of unity that comes from everybody working together in the same direction with the same good intent. And a lot of things get done. Let's imagine all of our chakras are activated. Red at the bottom of the spine, bring the energy up to the chakra above it, and you got orange. From the belly button area, raise the orange colored chakra energy up to the third chakra, which is just below the rib cage. Imagine the color yellow. From there, the energy goes higher to the heart chakra. Imagine the color green. From the green heart chakra, raise the energy up higher to the throat. Imagine the color blue. To the third eye, imagine the color violet. And then finally to the top of your head, imagine the color indigo, and the light continues on into the cosmos, bright white. From your heart chakra, send out love all around the world. See this love as the color green. Green colored love energy. Send this love energy all around the planet. To each and every individual. No matter who they are, friends, enemies, and everyone in between. And let's just think a good vibe for everybody in the world today. A good day. Let's wish everybody a good day. And with that, bring our energy and attention back to the present moment, and we'll do so on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. There you go. That's it. Another one in the can. Hope you're going to have a great day today, my friends. Hope your morning continues to go well for you. Should be interesting. It's going to go on tonight at these primaries. So let's all see what's going on. Let's pay attention. And just watch how the mainstream media does things. Listen to the stories. Just kind of test yourself. Watch what the mainstream cable says. And then go online and just see what's the buzz over there. You'll definitely find a difference. Because the one thinks the other is not in sync with it. And so they don't always share all of the info they could. But you know the difference. All it takes is a little research and you figure it all out very, very easily. All right, that's it. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. You have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.